Quiet on the set, please.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
And action!
Welcome to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign. If you love old movies, Hollywood history, or the golden age of filmmaking, you've come to the right place. This is the podcast that talks about amazing stories of Tinseltown from another era. Hear fascinating conversations with writer-producer Steve Cubine, who quite literally lives just beneath the Hollywood sign, and actress-writer Nan McNamara. Now your hosts, Steve and Nan.
Welcome everybody to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign. Hi, Nan.
Hi, Steve. Happy New Year.
It's a new year dawning.
Oh my gosh, 2026.
This is our third season.
It's crazy.
I know, we have some great stories coming up.
Do you remember thinking about 2026 when you were a kid?
Oh, I could barely think about 2000.
I know, it
Already
just seems like...
Figured up how old I would be in the year 2000. I thought, that's old.
I thought cars would be in the air by now.
Exactly.
Oh, well.
Well, we've got a great episode coming up.
We do.
Well, of course, it's the beginning of the month, so we have an episode which honors our star of the month. And this particular actor, I have always been a huge fan of him.
Me too.
He wasn't the flashiest of actors, but he certainly was one of the most versatile. And I've always loved how he brought such haunting depth and emotional intensity to his roles, often portraying characters that were teetering on the edge of psychological turmoil. With his piercing blue eyes and floppy blonde hair, his sensitive, brooding presence always gave him the appearance of the sensitive poet. And his voice. He had this fantastic baritone voice that could convey both vulnerability and menace. He really excelled at playing sensitive, troubled men, sometimes deeply introspective, and other times psychotic or dangerously unhinged.
Yeah, well said.
And of course, I am talking about the great Richard Basehart. From his chilling portrayal of the deranged killer in He Walked by Night from 1948 to the tormented clown in Federico Fellini's Strada, 1954, Basehart always infused each performance with a profound humanity, sensitivity, and this quiet strength, making him one of the most compelling and, in my opinion, underrated actors of his generation.
I agree. Very underrated actor. Well, Richard Basehart began life in Zanesville, Ohio on August 31st, 1914. His dad, Harry, was a former actor and the editor of the local newspaper, and his mother, Mary, was a stay-at-home mom. Basehart was initially interested in following in his father's footsteps and becoming a newspaperman. In fact, he used to spend school vacations working as a reporter for his father's newspaper, which kind of makes sense because I think of actors, I think of us as being investigators, reporters, mining the character,
that makes sense.
To figure things out. However, his journalism ambitions fell to the wayside after he graduated from high school and he decided to audition for the local Zanesville theater company. This whetted his appetite for his acting career. He then moved to Philadelphia and joined the Hedgerow Theater Company. And there he really cut his teeth working as an apprentice for several years and appearing in over 40 productions, everything from Shakespeare to modern classics. I think you can really see that in his voice, his voice work.
Yes, you really can. Such a trained voice.
While Basehart was with the Hedgerow Theater Group, he met and fell in love with his first wife, Stephanie Klein, who was the company's costume designer. The two were married in 1940.
Now, with his eye on the prize of Broadway, Basehart wrote a letter to Broadway producer Margaret Webster asking for an interview. That's pretty ballsy, I think. Well, she was the daughter, of course, of actors Ben Webster and the great Dame May Whitty, and she made a splash on Broadway directing King Richard II and Hamlet. Well, she was really impressed with Basehart's boldness, and she brought him in for a meeting. Well, this led to him being cast in a small role in the Broadway play Counterattack in 1943, which starred Morris Karnofsky and Barbara O'Neill. Also featured in the cast were future stars Carl Malden and John Ireland. The show closed on April 17, 1943, after only 85 performances. However, this role led to him appearing in other plays like Land of Fame, Take It As It Comes, and Hickory Stick. None of these productions lasted long, but the experience led Basehart to his first real Broadway success in The Hasty Heart, written by John Patrick, which ran for over 200 performances in 1945. For his efforts in The Hasty Heart, Basehart won the 1945 New York Drama Critics Circle Award for Most Promising Young Actor, which boosted his career.
It's perfect casting for him as the lead in The Hasty Heart. It just combines all that he does so well. Well, it didn't take Hollywood would long to come a-calling, a Warner Brothers talent scout saw Basehart in The Hasty Heart and offered him a Hollywood screen test. He made his screen debut in repeat performance in 1947, which you and I are both fans of.
Love this movie.
We featured it on episode number 15 way back in the day.
Back in the day, season 1.
As a favorite film to watch on New Year's. The film stars Joan Leslie, Lewis Hayward, Virginia Field, and Tom Conway. Basehart gives a magnificent performance as William Williams.
Love the name.
Yep, the sensitive and emotionally fragile poet who falls victim to the treachery of his wealthy benefactress, played by Mrs. Thurston Howell III herself, of course. We're talking about Natalie Schaefer.
Now, this led to his next film, Cry Wolf, 1947, which was his atmospheric film noir which starred Errol Flynn, Barbara Stanwyck, and Geraldine Brooks. In it, Basehart plays Stanwyck's not-so-dead and not-so-sane husband. It's a great movie, and he's so good in this.
Yeah,
very
really
different from repeat performance. Yeah. However, it was in Basehart's third movie that he really left his mark. In the Alfred L. Worker-directed film noir, He Walked by Night, 1948, which co-starred Scott Brady and was based on a true story, he will chill you to the bone as a cold, calculating killer. Of his performance, Variety wrote, quote, "With this role, Basehart establishes himself as one of Hollywood's most talented finds in recent years. He heavily overshadows the rest of the cast. He played a psycho so realistically in this film that it became a common trait in many of his subsequent movie roles. In Rosanna McCoy from 1949, which was a telling of the battle between the Hatfields and McCoys, he plays a psychotic member of the Hatfield clan. In one of my favorite of his films, Tension, 1949, he excels as this meek pharmacist who manages to toy around with the idea of killing the lover of his wayward wife, played by Audrey Totter. He ultimately decides he can't go through with it, so when the man ends up dead anyway, Basehart's character is wrongly accused and has to prove his innocence. The film also co-starred Barry Sullivan and, in a rare non-musical role, Sid Charisse as the good girl.
In 1950, Basehart suffered a tremendous loss when his wife Stephanie died at the age of 41 after surgery for a brain tumor. Well, he threw himself into work to help deal with the tragic loss. Around this time, Basehart signed a studio contract with 20th Century Fox. His first film under the new contract was one of his best. In the Henry Hathaway-directed drama 14 Hours, 1951, Basehart gives a complex, nuanced performance as a despondent young man who has crawled out onto the narrow ledge of his hotel room, threatening to jump. His story and what led up to his suicidal thoughts are told in flashbacks. The film also stars Paul Douglas in a terrific performance, Grace Kelly in her film debut, Barbara Bel Geddes, Agnes Moorehead, Jeffrey Hunter, and Deborah Paget.
What a cast.
That is an amazing cast.
It's a great movie and a great performance.
Basehart received stellar reviews, with Bosley Crowther of the New York Times writing, quote, "In the role of the jumper, Richard Basehart does a startling and poignant job within the limitation of the 1 square feet of acting space." I mean, that really does say something, right?
It really does.
So for his role, Basehart won the BAFTA Award for Best Actor that year.
Basehart, he's top billed in his next film, The House on Telegraph Hill from 1951. Directed by Robert Wise, this film noir thriller was another hit for Basehart. It was on this production that he met leading lady Valentina Cortese, an Italian actress who'd made a splash a couple of years earlier in Thieves Highway, 1949, with Richard Conte. Basehart and Cortese fell in love while making the film.
Well, after his next film, the war drama Decision Before Dawn, 1951, which was shot in Germany for director Anatole Litvak, he traveled to Italy, where he and Cortese were married on March 14th, 1951. They soon welcomed a son, Jackie, in October. So, if you do the math there, either Jackie was born a few months premature or that was a shotgun wedding. Well, before we get more into Richard Basehart's career, let's give our listeners this week's Hollywood Pop Quiz.
And the pop quiz question today is, when Basehart made his film debut in repeat performance in 1947, Warner Brothers was so convinced that he would be a star. For the premiere, what did they do for him?
All right, we will come back with the answer to that and more about the great Richard Basehart after this.
Steve and Ann will be right back, but first another stop on the Hollywood tour. Like many actors in Hollywood, film and TV is often just part of these famous people's lives. Back in 1971, Richard and Diana Basehart founded Actors and Others for Animals. Its goal was to promote the humane treatment of animals. And that's more than 5 decades ago, and they continue to grow every year. Another cause shared by the Baseharts was the condition and treatment of senior citizens. They appreciated that both animals and the elderly were often seen as unwanted and outcasts. Actors and Others has made a difference in the lives of hundreds of thousands of animals and humans alike. Their main mission is to curb the pet overpopulation problem by subsidizing spay and neuter surgeries. And together with other vital services, they're there to help pet guardians living on a low or fixed income care for their beloved pets. Their current president is, get this, Joanne Worley. How cool is that? Check them out at actorsandothers.com. And now back to Steve and Nan from Beneath the Hollywood Sign.
Welcome back, everybody. And this week we're talking about our star of the month, Richard Basehart. But before we get further into his career, we're going to give a shout out to our listener of the week. And this week we are honoring Valerie Beers from Maine. Valerie's also a devoted listener to Box of Oddities and The Shallow End. And we're so happy that she jumped over to our show as well.
Yes, because it's the trifecta of podcasts,
It is
right?
totally the trifecta of podcasts. So Valerie, thank you for the likes, for the comments, for the support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Valerie. Well, when we left off with Richard Basehart's life and career, he had just gotten married for the second time. The couple set up homes in Rome and in Los Angeles, and Basehart was soon splitting his time appearing in Italian films, for which he learned Italian, very impressive, and in the U.S. He lit up the screen and collected more laurels in Hollywood for his role as the defrocked priest in Titanic, 1953, starring Barbara Stanwyck and Clifton Webb. He's so good in that.
So good.
He also appeared in several Italian films, including the aforementioned Federico Fellini classic La Strada, 1954, in which his performance as the ill-fated clown won widespread critical acclaim and made him an international star. The following year, Fellini used Basehart again in his film Il Bodone, 1955, known by the American title as The Swindle, also starring American actor Broderick Crawford.
Basehart stayed busy during the second half of the 1950s, appearing in dozens of films, both in Italy and the U.S. Highlights included Moby Dick, 1956, where he placed the film's narrator, Ishmael. The film, directed by John Huston, was a huge hit, and Basehart was nominated as Best Actor for the National Board of Review. He also received positive notices for his role in the period drama The Brothers Karamazov, 1958, which starred Lee J. Cobb as a father who manipulated his sons, Yul Brynner, William Shatner, Basehart, and Albert Salmi.
Around this time, things in his personal life were suffering from his busy film schedule. I mean, going back and forth between the States and Italy must have been tough. After nearly 10 years of marriage, he and Valentina Cortese divorced. But Basehart stayed in Italy to be near his son, Jackie, who would go on to follow in his parents' footsteps and became an actor in Italy.
The 1960s were an interesting period for Basehart. He started this period of his career playing a suspected blackmailer in the glossy, soapy Hollywood thriller Portrait in Black, 1960, which starred Lana Turner, Anthony Quinn, Sandra Dee, Virginia Gray, and in her final screen performance, Anna May Wong. Soon after this, he appeared in the western The Savage Guns, 1961, and even played Adolf Hitler in the ambitious film Hitler from 1962, which dealt with the women in Hitler's life. Basehart took on the role of Hitler with as much thought and research as possible. He said in an interview, and this is a quote, "I researched, I read volumes, I evolved a characterization of this man, a genius, if a psychopathic one. The producer exploded. Too sympathetic, he said. We did it his way. The result was less than ideal and the film flopped."
I think his take on it would have been really interesting to see.
Yes.
And it goes back again to his roots as a reporter.
As a reporter.
Doing all that investigating.
The bottom of things, yes.
Well, after a chance encounter with actress Diana Lodery at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, the two were soon seen all around town in what can only be described as a whirlwind courtship. They married in 1962, and Diana gave up acting to become a sculptress, an animal animal rights activist. Diana and Basehart formed the nonprofit Actors and Others for Animals in 1971.
So cool.
I just fell in love with him even more.
I know. And that organization is still around, and they do such great work.
Yeah. They also had 2 daughters, Gayla and Jenna.
Now, as TV continued to place a strong hold on the entertainment industry, Basehart jumped on the bandwagon. He began guest starring on shows such as Rawhide and Naked City, Route 66, and The Alfred Hitchcock Hour. He also appeared in famous episodes of The Twilight Zone that reimagined the story of Adam and Eve on a deserted planet. In 1964, he was approached by producer Irwin Allen to star in his new sci-fi TV series, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, based on the popular 1961 movie. The series, which told the stories of the crew of the Seaview, a submarine commissioned to explore the mysteries of the sea, ran for 4 seasons from 1964 to 1968.
Well, by the 70s, Basehart had fully embraced television, where he became the go-to guy for the made-for-TV movie, including an appearance in, I know this is one of your favorites, The City Beneath the Sea, 1971.
Love it, love it.
Which was also produced by Irwin Allen and starred Stuart Whitman and Rosemary Forsyth.
Yeah, you know what? That film, it's so good, and it's just worth it just to see those groovy 1970s clothes that Irwin Allen thought looked futuristic. It's really fun. Now, Basehart also appeared frequently on episodic series such as Ironside, Gunsmoke, Columbo, Hawaii Five-0, Marcus Welby, M.D., The Streets of San Francisco, and Little House on the Prairie. He also appeared in the 1978 miniseries How the West Was Won, alongside stars James Arness and Bruce Boxleiter.
Well, he returned to feature films with prominent roles in the filmed version of H.G. Wells's The Island of Dr. Moreau, 1977, with Burt Lancaster and Michael York, and The Great Being There, 1979, directed by Hal Ashby, and starring Peter Sellers, Shirley MacLaine, and Melvin Douglas.
And what would the 1980s be if Basehart didn't make a pit stop on the Love Boat?
It's a must.
You have to.
You must, yes.
Well, in his episode, he romances Joan Fontaine.
Wow.
His final screen credit was for an ongoing role on the TV series Knight Rider, where he served as the series narrator. During this period, his health began to fail, and he suffered a series of strokes. He eventually fell into a coma, and he passed away on September the 17th, 1984, at the age of 70. He worked right up until the end. In fact, 1 month before he passed away, he recorded this poem that was read during the torch lighting ceremony for the 1984 Summer Olympics.
You know, he really died young. As I get older, 70 just seems so young to me.
So young.
Yeah. But I love that he continued working, and of course television would be the perfect place for him.
Oh, he just found his place, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been a wonderful exploration of his career. I love him as well.
Me too.
And I always thought of him more as a television actor, because when I was a kid, that's what I saw. But now seeing all of his older films, you just see the roots of what a wonderful actor he is.
Yeah, he really was. Such an underrated actor.
Yes, very underrated. Let's remind our listeners of this week's Hollywood Pop Quiz.
And the pop quiz question was, when he made his screen debut in 1947 repeat performance, Warner Brothers did something for him because they were so convinced he was going to be a star. What did they do to kind of promote his future stardom?
I don't know, but I think it might have something to do with where they premiered the film.
Exactly right. So they ended up, and this was so rare, they premiered repeat performance in his hometown of Zanesville, Ohio.
Wow. And that was his film debut.
And they never did that. So they really had a lot of faith in him.
What a wonderful homecoming for him in his hometown.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thanks everyone for joining us this week. We appreciate you, and we would love it if you would give us a 5-star review. And also follow us on social media. Our handle is @FromBeneathTheHollywoodSign. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. You can also watch the podcast on YouTube. And if you do that, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe.
And you can email us at info@FromBeneathTheHollywoodSign.com.
That's this week's view.
From Beneath the Hollywood Sign.
You've been listening to From Beneath the Hollywood Sign with Steve Cubine and Ann McNamara, the podcast that celebrates amazing stories of Tinseltown from its golden era. Join us next week for another episode. and learn something else about Hollywood you probably never knew. Take a moment and give us a 5-star rating and a positive review, and tell your friends about us too. It'll help grow the podcast. Visit Steve's website at FromBeneathTheHollywoodSign.com. The executive producers are Steve Cubine and Nan McNamara. Executive producer and post-production supervisor Lindsay Schnebley. Associate producer and researcher John Price Ritchie. This podcast is part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. Visit airwavemedia.com to listen and subscribe to their other fine shows like The Box of Oddities and The Shallow End with Schnebley and Toth. Copyright 2026, all rights reserved. That's a wrap.